And I have a feeling if Alan was here tonight, he'd be smiling off the top of the show, not because Malcolm Turnbull has been given the boot today, but because people power has proven to make a difference. Today, the voice of the people, the loud and furious protests from ordinary Australians on radio, in newspapers and on television networks like this one, which welcome opinion, forced the New South Wales government to reverse its decision to hand Malcolm Turnbull that plum role as the head of the Zero Emissions Economic Board. Well done. In fact, I'm told the Premier's office fielded a near record number of complaints. But, like his new best mate Kevin Rudd, Turnbull is blaming News Corp media. He's never understood how the mob think, never, and has never accepted when he fails. It's always someone else's fault. On the subject of climate change, he's lost, well, 3 times now, once against Tony Abbott over the ETS, another time against his own colleagues, which saw him booted from the Parliament, and then today. I'll go through how this unravelled very shortly and why it was people power which scored the victory. People power. Great victory. Former Federal Liberal Minister Amanda Vanstone will have something to say too about Malcolm's latest fall from grace, in particular his claim of the government being bullied by the media. But Amanda Vanstone has also got a message for Malcolm tonight on how he's trying to push Australia to become a republic. Now, Amanda Vanstone reckons he's heading for another loss there as well, unless the Republican movement stops bagging the royal family and bagging constitutional monarchists. In other words, give monarchists more than they expect, including respect. It's an enlightened view, and we'll hear from Amanda Vanstone very shortly. Also tonight, what this New Zealand-Australian travel bubble really means. Now, before you start jumping online tonight and making bookings to Queenstown and all those wonderful New Zealand destinations, and they are wonderful, understand the Kiwi fine print. One single COVID case could leave you stranded. We'll look at that shortly. And we'll look closely at claims of racism from one of Australia's up-and-coming actors today on the set of one of our most iconic television dramas. As for the vaccine rollout, you will need to be mighty patient because I'll play you some of what the Prime Minister said today and see if you buy his arguments about why this has slowed down as much as it has. A busy day, a busy show, and we'll get to some of your feedback as well on air. The text message number 0414 000 848, 0414 000 848, or you can send your emails via alan@skynews.com.au. There is nothing better than watching people power in this country force change and common sense in government. It reminds me of the no carbon tax rallies, which I was involved with. And today, when the New South Wales Environment Minister, Matt Kean, came to his senses, or was made to come to his senses, and reversed the outrageous decision to hand former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull a plum green job advising the government, it was a victory for people power. It was also a backflip with triple pike, which is never easily executed by any government. They don't like to be shown up for making a blue. But it was Turnbull himself, the newly converted coalophobe, who triggered this by jumping on his favourite radio network, the ABC, and picking a fight with coal, our largest export earner.
Do you agree with this call from the Australia Institute for a freeze or moratorium on coal mining approvals in New South Wales?
Absolutely. I think it is out of control. There are mines being approved which would have capacities vastly in excess of the demand for coal that exists. There is an extraordinary devastation of the landscape in the Upper Hunter.
That was the trigger. Malcolm himself, that was the trigger. As the Deputy Premier John Barilaro admitted today, up until that point, even he was convinced it was the right decision. Now, that in itself is scary. Turnbull has done nothing since being booted out of office but wreck anything connected to the Liberal Party. So that's scary. But With a precarious by-election coming up in the coalfields of the Upper Hunter next month, flagging a war with coal miners was the last thing the National Party wanted to hear.
I gave the benefit of the doubt to the Liberals. Often I'm the one that fights for common sense, and it's the Nats that are the Praetorian Guard for common sense. And I gave the benefit of the doubt to Malcolm Turnbull, but you're right, he pulled my pants down within 48 hours of his appointment on an area that, I take seriously. For someone to be appointed in a government role and not to understand the passion and the policy position of the government, then in itself shows that they are thick-headed and they aren't interested in what is right and good for the economy.
Hear that? More of Malcolm Turnbull's ignorance at what is acceptable on a political front. Ignorance. It was untenable. Untenable even before his radio declaration of war, because Turnbull has also been at war with the party he was about to advise, constantly. Untenable. Not to mention several conflicts of interest, including the fact that he's the chair of Twiggy, Forrest, Fortescue Future Industries. This is a group planning to make a killing on power from hydrogen, which is great, promising. But you can't be a player in the renewable game and then become the referee as well. The Premier decided to go to the Easter show today and was keen for Kean to take the heat.
It's about winning the by-election, though, isn't it, in the Upper Hunter?
Well, look, at the end of the day, that decision was made. But what I want to do today is thank Malcolm for his contribution to Australia.
So, Premier, this has nothing to do with the by-election in the Upper Hunter?
Look, Minister Kean's statement stands on its own, and I think the comments he made in that statement were pretty true.
Now, in that statement, Matt Kean said this: the focus should not be on personality. No person's role on the board should distract from achieving results for the New South Wales people. And instead of realising the political reality, instead of admitting he made a mistake and jumped the gun in backing a new coal moratorium, instead of walking away with some degree of grace and dignity, Turnbull, the miserable old ghost, blamed the media for his dumping. In fact, he took a leaf out of that other miserable old ghost playbook, Kevin Rudd, and blamed News Corp.
There has been nothing short of a pretty ferocious campaign, a vendetta really, in the characteristic way that News Corp operates. And its goal was to bully the state government into not appointing me chair of this net zero board. They've been successful.
Poor Diddums. He sounds like Joan of Arc, a victim, crucified at Easter by News Corp, when a third of New South Wales is on holidays and not really paying too much attention to news agenda. But anyway, let me show you who really nailed Turnbull on this job. It was the people of New South Wales. As soon as he declared war on coal, did you have a look at the comments section on all the newspapers? People went feral. Have a look at what was said on radio. I opened the talkback lines on my radio program, and I've never heard the kind of vitriol dished out about a single decision by a Liberal government in 20 years. Helen in Kellyville. Hi, Helen.
Oh, look, I just can't believe that they would take Malcolm Turnbull on again. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Liberal voter, but if they keep him in, I think I'll have to go elsewhere.
Jeanette in Greystanes.
We know we've got a problem with Turnbull, but we need to find a way to fix him, and that is treat him for what he is, a traitor.
Michelle in Mossman.
I'm so angry. We are lifelong Liberal voters. Cancel the contract of Malcolm Turnbull now before he starts, please.
Yeah.
He is a vengeful. Don't even have enough word to describe that man. He's not for the country.
Michael in Manly.
Well, now we know why his name is Malcolm Turnbull, because everything he does and says turns to bull.
Patricia in Seaforth.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. You know, he is just bad news. Why would they do this? He should be expelled.
June's online.
I think he should be banned from the Liberal Party, quite frankly. I think everything he touches for Turnbull turns bad. No, they should get rid of him once and for all.
The calls were endless. That had nothing to do with News Corp. All those Liberal supporters who backed Premier Berejiklian through her ICAC tribulations turned on her. The noise was palpable. Even Matt Kean wasn't buying Malcolm's News Corp gripes tonight on Sky News.
Malcolm Turnbull says it was a News Corp vendetta and News Corp bullying that forced you and the Cabinet to change their mind. Was he wrong to say that?
Well, Malcolm Turnbull's entitled to his opinions. I made the decision to appoint him, and I made the decision to withdraw or to rescind the nomination. I didn't do that because News Corp dictated terms to me, that's for sure.
It was people power that reversed this decision. I'll tell you what more occurred. The Premier's office was bombarded by calls and emails of complaint. The job went to her secretary, Ray Williams, another MP, to send letters out of reply. He must have ended up getting cramps in his hand. I'm sure they were templated letters and form letters, but everyone got one. At least Malcolm Turnbull is consistent with the way he acts and reacts. He's never had any real political nous or intuition about how the mob sees things. He's never actually been successful in the climate war space either. And when he doesn't get his way, he's consistent there too. He throws his toys out of the cot, he spits the dummy and runs off to cry to his mates at the ABC. Watch him closely though from here. My tip is the miserable old ghost campaign of revenge will now become turbocharged.